Hello guys and welcome back to another video. My name is FPL Meerkat and today I've got my fancy World Cup selection for you guys. I'm going to be doing content a little bit differently on this channel. I'm not going to be suggesting players to you guys. I'm not going to be making that informational content or playing the game regularly and just trying to get the most points as possible to try and win it. I'm going to be picking a team with some fun restrictions to it and just seeing how well it does. So you can come back to this sort of thing to see how the team is progressing with this fun little restriction to it, rather than it being, really serious and how can I try and win the game. It's just to try and have a little bit of fun, add a little spice to the game. Yeah. So let's get into what the rules are. So I'm just going to explain what the rules are for my team. If you want to scroll past this part, you can use the timestamps down below that I've put down if you just want to see the squad selection. But basically I ran a poll on my Twitter and this was the winning idea for the team, which is a team of all differentials. Now, differential has a bit of a different meaning between other people, so this is the definition that I've put to the team here. My definition is a player who has been selected by less than 5% of the game. I know people will have different definitions for a differential, but that's the one I put on the idea just to give it some clarity as to what players I can and can't select. So all initially selected players must be lower than 5% ownership before the deadline. So I've actually had to change some players about because some players I'd selected were differentials at the time, but they've now actually risen to above 5%, probably because other FPL content creators have released videos suggesting those players, so they've now risen above it, so they're no longer differentials. So I'm going to have to pick a lot of players who aren't being suggested by anyone to make them differential. So yeah, I'll show you what the total ownership for this team is as well, and I will say it is incredibly low. If a player I own rises to above 5%, then I am allowed to keep them. They were differential at the time I bought them. I don't have to get rid of them just because they've risen to above 5%. And if a player I don't own rises to above 5%, I cannot transfer them in. So they have to be below 5% before it gets to the deadline. So I have to make my changes basically as late as possible, and they have to be a differential by the time I've transferred them in. After the group stage, this 5% then rises to 10%. Because there's less teams to pick from, obviously the percentage of the players who are still playing in the game are going to be higher. So I'm just going to rise it a little bit to 10%. After the quarterfinals, that'll become 20%. And then for the final, I can choose whoever I want because there's only 2 teams left and it's very unlikely that anyone will be a differential. And also the 12-man booster. If you want to check the rules for this game, by the way, I'm not really going to go into the rules in this video. I'll link some good videos down below to explain the rules of this game to you guys, because it works very differently to FPL. It works a lot more similarly to the fancy Champions League game, if you played that, and the Euros game as well that came out a couple years ago. Works more similar to that. But yeah, so the 12-man booster, which is basically the FPL equivalent of chips, must also be used on the differential. I'm probably going to use it in the group stage, so I will be using it on a player that is 5% or lower ownership. Yeah, so that's all the rules out of the way. Let's get into the actual squad selection. So when it came to picking players for this squad, it was very challenging. It was a lot more challenging than I was expecting at first, because I was like, there's sure to be some absolute gems who have just gone under the radar and I can just pick all of them and be done with it. No, not at all. At the moment, there are 79 players who are above 5% ownership. So 79 players I cannot choose from. And obviously, those are going to be the best players in the game. So I'm really going to have to look for some absolute gems, which is a bit of the fun of this challenge. So almost every single premium player in the game is 5% or more owned. So it's actually incredibly difficult for me to use all of my budget. This team that I've made only has 0.5 million in the bank, which I think is relatively good. Because, yeah, there's not many expensive players to choose from. And a lot of the expensive players I can choose from are incredibly high rotation risks. So the way I've approached this at the moment is to try and get a big variety in terms of the groups that I've picked my players from, so I don't have too many players playing each other. I think there's one group I have 3 players from. But yeah, try to spread around the groups and try to pick the focal points for teams who aren't expected to do as well. I think that's going to be my best bet because obviously the higher owned players are the best players from the best teams. So what I'm going to try and do is pick the best players from the not the worst teams, but the teams who aren't expected to do as well, and just hope they can grab some points in it. Because I reckon if those teams are going to do well at this tournament, these are some of the players that will do well in it. So in goal, the 2 goalkeepers that I've currently chosen at the moment are, let me just type in here. They are, oh, yeah, I can. Okay. Sorry, I was just seeing if I could type in here. Yeah, so the first goalkeeper is Szczesny for PSG. Oh, goodness me, how do I navigate this? There you go. Szczesny is in the team there, and Mendy as well, who initially wasn't going to be in my team, but he's now, as you can see there, fallen to just 5% owned. So, yeah, both of those will be in the team for the first game week, for the first match day. At the moment, Szczesny is he's nailed on in that Poland side. He's probably the best option there is, who is below 5% ownership. He's 2.9% ownership at the time of recording. Again, if a player rises to above 5% before the deadline, I will have to get rid of them. I will be making a final team selection, hopefully on Saturday, right before Sunday, before the deadline, where my team will be finalised at that point. But yeah, I'm just hoping that too many of these players don't rise to above 5%, because a few of them are very close. Yeah, so I've got Szczesny in there with that game against Mexico. Hopefully a good chance of a clean sheet there. And also Edouard Mendy against the Netherlands. Now, that is obviously quite a tough fixture, the first one, but I can easily sub him out for Szczesny if Senegal don't manage to keep a clean sheet. And he can be a really top performing goalkeeper on his day. But the fixtures are great for Senegal. They've got a very good group this year, so I expect him to get clean sheets. And maybe not in this first one. I'll probably be relying more on Szczesny. But yeah, as you can see there, I've got a very expensive goalkeeper set there. 11 million spent on the goalkeepers already, but that is because I've really struggled to try and spend money elsewhere. This is almost like the entire team is mid-range. There's probably one premium player in this whole team, I would say. So yeah, going into the defense, the first defender I've got here is Nuno Mendes, or Nuno Mensch, as I believe is pronounced in Portuguese. Nuno Mensch, yeah, so he's only 4% owned, has a really nice fixture against Ghana. Obviously, most people in the game have gone for Cancelo, but this is what I'm going to have to do for this team. A lot of it is going to be the popular player is a particular position, and I've had to go for the opposite wing to get in that player. But I think he's pretty nailed in the Portuguese side. I know Cancelo can play left back and Dalot can play, but I think Nuno Mensch is definitely more preferred than Dalot in the Portuguese side. So it's a really nice way into that side. He's very attacking as well. He loves to get forward. He is 4% owned, so I'm praying that doesn't rise to above 5% at the moment. I think he's a really nice differential with a great set of fixtures, especially that first one against Ghana. A really nice one to there. And he's one of those players I can sub on later as well. The second player getting into the team here is, let me just check, is Molina for Argentina. Now, again, most people are preferring the other wing for Tagliafico. He is a bit of a rotation risk with the other, I can't remember the name, the other left back, Acuna, I think it is, in terms of a position. And I don't know if Tagliafico has been struggling a little bit with some injuries. That could be completely fake. But Molina is a little bit more nailed on. He's only 1.4% owned. Argentina have a great set of fixtures, that really good fixture against Saudi Arabia. He's pretty much nailed at that right back spot as well. He's far less attacking than the left-sided Tagliafico and Acuna. And as you might have seen from the rules, the attacking fullbacks are really good in this year because goals are worth worth 7 points for defenders. But yeah, I'm hoping for clean sheets there basically. Which is all I can really hope for. with the players I'm picking. The third one is a very risky one. I've gone for Daley Blind. Again, the left back spot for the Netherlands is very highly contested between Blind and Malacia. No one's really too sure who's going to be playing. It'll probably be quite a bit of rotation, but that's the beauty of having a strong side throughout the whole team, is that if they don't play, I can easily just sub them off. And I really wanted a Netherlands defender because I think they have the best fixtures out of any of the teams. With Senegal, Ecuador, and Qatar in their group, they probably have the best group out of any of the top teams. So I really wanted a defender. And he's relatively cheap, and he's pretty attacking as well, Daley Blind. I think he's slightly more nailed on than Malacia at the moment. You can let me know if I've got that wrong, because Malacia is also would be below that threshold, so I could also go for him. But yeah, I really do like the look of Daley Blind. And I can't get Dumfries. I would love to have him. He's definitely the better pick. But yeah, just going for that differential at 0.9% owned, Daley Blind. The fourth defender is Christensen. Someone who I've wanted to own since before the game was announced. I wanted Christensen in my team. He's an excellent attacking fullback. Another one where the other one is much more preferred. Mailer, I think his name was. He was excellent in the Euro game. So I'm just going for the opposite side. He's a very attacking fullback. He has scored goals for Denmark, and they are a very strong defence. So I'm really excited about this differential pick. I think Christensen could pull off some big surprises. Only that France fixture is tough. Tunisia could get a clean sheet there, and Australia as well. I think I'm backing Denmark to do quite well at this tournament. So yeah, I definitely wanted to get one of their players in my team. And the final defender that I'm looking at is Rodriguez of Switzerland. Now, at 0.7% owned. Sorry, yeah, Christensen as well was 2.5% owned at the moment. Rodriguez is an interesting one. A lot of people aren't talking about him, but I'm pretty sure that he's on penalties for Switzerland. I might be completely wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure he's taken the last one for Switzerland. He's very cheap considering that, 4.5 million. And Switzerland, they've been given quite a hard group, but their first game against Cameroon's really nice. And he's relatively cheap, so I'd be all right subbing him off anyway. And with the potential for penalties, he could get a nice score. So I'm quite excited about owning Rodriguez. I could be completely wrong about the penalty thing. It's very rare for a team to have a defender as their penalty taker, but I guess we'll see when the time comes, or if the time comes, Switzerland get a penalty. But yeah, that's it for the back line. In terms of the midfield, the first pick here is a bit of an unusual one. I've gone for Tadic of Serbia, who is only 1.8% owned at the time of recording. Obviously, a really tough fixture against Brazil for the first one. But apart from that, they look pretty good. Cameroon in the next game. He'll be the last on my bench as well. So again, if the team's performing really well, I might not even need him. But Tadic is the main creator for Serbia. He might also be on penalties. I don't think so, because they've got Vlahovic and Mitrovic as well, Serbia, so I doubt he'll be on penalties. But I think he takes free kicks. He's the main creator for their team, and their team looks very, very strong this year. So yeah, I'm excited to have him in the team. I think he definitely fits that exciting differential pick really nicely. The second midfielder I've got is probably my riskiest one, which is... Oh, he's not coming up on the typing. Yep, that's because he's got a thing in his name. Gundogan, who is 4.4% owned. He might rise to above 5%. I think he was on 4%. He's now 4.4. He's slowly going up. But yeah, he's definitely a risky pick, because Japan and Costa Rica are really good games, but Spain might be a bit of a tougher one. But Gundogan isn't nailed to start for Germany. He's the only one who I've really picked who's not the main creator for his team. There are other options which I'll get into, which I could switch out for Gundogan, but he is on penalties for Germany when he is playing. You'll see that's quite a common theme in this team, is penalty takers, because that's one of the heaviest things I'm going to rely on. I just think with VAR being introduced for this World Cup, I think there might be a lot more penalties. So I'm spreading my bets as much as I can on penalties happening. But yeah, Gundogan he's a hard worker as well. He can rock up in the box with a goal. I think players like that might be really good this year, because of the points you get from tackles for midfielders. Gundogan does a lot of hard work throughout the pitch. But again, with Kimmich and Goretzka in the midfield for Germany, he's definitely not going to be nailed for playtime. I'm just hoping he can get that Japan fixture, but he might be someone I look to move on if he's not getting the game time. So yeah, a bit of a risky pick in terms of playtime there. Someone though, the third midfielder who's not a risk for playtime is Christian Pulisic, 3.9% owned. I don't think he'll quite get to 5%, which is great for me, purely because USA aren't predicted to do very well in this World Cup. But I think if they're going to get goals, it will have to be through Pulisic in some way. He's the main man for the US. He's on penalties. He could really turn up at this World Cup. Some exciting fixtures for them there with Wales, Iran and England. I think that Christian Pulisic can definitely rock up with a goal in this World Cup. He's been playing all right for Chelsea. It's been a bit of a slow career, but for the US, he's definitely their main guy. Yeah, he is. He's probably the number one person I had in my mind. I think he was on the picture for this whole idea in terms of a differential who could potentially do some business for my team. The fourth midfielder I've got here is an old favourite of mine, Shaqiri. I always like picking Shaqiri in these international games because he is just not a player that many people pick, and he always seems to do pretty darn well. He's probably the main creative outlet for the Swiss team. They've got a very good team this year, and again, that first fixture against Cameroon is really nice. And he's only 2% owned. He's typically been Switzerland's best player. He always seems to pull his socks up for the international stage. So yeah, I'm excited to have him in the team. I think he can definitely do really well, especially in that Cameroon game. I could definitely see his ownership rising. I could be completely wrong, but he's pretty much nailed, and he makes a good fit for the team. And the fifth player I've got here is a bit more risky, is Boufal from Morocco, who have an incredibly tough group with Croatia, Belgium and Canada. So this is, again, I'm glad that I can use the bench for this one, because Boufal, I'm basically hoping that Morocco can pull out some masterclass here. This is a real punt of a pick. 0.8% owned. I think he's nearly the lowest owned player in my team, apart from Rodriguez. But yeah, he has some tough fixtures there, but he's on penalties for Morocco. And he's the cheapest attacker, so he's an easy switch out for me. Once he's played his game, it's fine if he blanks because I've made up the bigger picks are in other places. And again, if somehow Morocco can pull something out, I think Boufal may be a big part of it. Obviously, the more preferred choice for people's teams is Ziyech, but I can see Ziyech being a creator and assister for the team, and Boufal potentially being a goal scorer for this Moroccan team. But yeah, this is probably the most out there pick that I've got in my team. And next up is the attackers. Now, this is probably where I'm most excited about this team, because these are all pretty big differential picks, and I think they have got the highest potential to do well. I think my captaincy choices will all be in the front line. And because we've only got 3 attackers and so many players have been listed as forwards in this game, I can really get away with picking some really nice players for the front line. So the first player, who I'm very surprised is below 5% at the moment, is Romelu Lukaku, who is only 3.7% owned at the time of recording. That fixture against Canada looks really nice for Belgium. I'm fairly certain he is the starting man for Belgium. I don't think anyone is taking that position away from him in terms of starting. He does normally play pretty well for Belgium. He's on penalties. He's probably the best player I've been able to pick so far, only 3.8% owned. I guess most people will have the likes of Messi, Neymar, Mbappe. He's just not on that caliber, but he can certainly get some returns in this Belgian team, with Kevin De Bruyne behind him as well, supplying the creativity. And, they've got so many good players around him that I think Lukaku can get some easy tap-ins in this Belgium side. And we know that Lukaku can be an extremely good player on his day. But yeah, super excited to own him. The second player that I've got here is Heung-min Son, who, again, it's going to be a very difficult task for Korea to do well at this World Cup. But they have done it before. I remember when they beat Germany, I believe, last year, last World Cup. Their first game against Uruguay is a little tough, but they got the game against Ghana and Portugal. Son is just he's the main player for Korea. If Korea are going to get anything, it's going to be through Son. He's on penalties. Again, I believe the last guy as well as on penalties. So I think I have 7 penalty takers in this team, which is obviously what I'm going to have to most rely on. There is one more penalty taker who I could have got in my team, but I haven't selected him in the midfield, who I'll get onto in my honourable mentions. But yeah, I think Son can really do the damage if he is playing. Obviously, he had a fractured eye socket, but yeah, I think he'll play most of the games. Some tough fixtures there, but Son is an exceptionally good player, and I'm happy to have him as a differential. And the last player I've selected is Gareth Bale, who, as we know, again, can be an exceptionally good player, is the main man for Wales. If Wales are going to do well, it's probably going to be through him. Fantastic at free kicks, on penalties again. And yeah, he can certainly do the damage against the likes of the US and Iran, which is his first 2 fixtures. He can definitely get some goals in those games. So yeah, again, a really big differential there for Gareth Bale. And yeah, that is how the team is currently looking up. I'll just confirm it. And as I said before, you want to have so you want to have the players who have the last fixtures are on your bench, because you can then sub them on. It's not about the quality of the players you're putting on the pitch. It is about who plays last. So I believe Noon Mensch, he plays on the 24th. He will be on the bench. Let's put him there. Who plays last? I believe it's Serbia. Serbia plays last. So Tadic, I believe. Yeah, Tadic is one of the last fixtures. So he'll be on the bench there. And who else? I think Son. I think I saw Son. Yeah, Son is also on the 24th. So yeah, that is how the team is currently lining up at the moment. But I will go through some honourable mentions, some people who I'm definitely keeping my eyes on if they for different reasons. Either they're really good and I can't quite fit them in, or they're just a bit too high in ownership. So yeah, I'll run through those now. So in terms of players that I'm considering, I'm going to run by position to position. I'm currently recording this on Tuesday the 15th. And as of yet, there are actually quite a few players who haven't been added into the game. I think they put in players who they predicted were going to be in World Cup squads, but there are a lot of big players who have been selected for their international squads who aren't in the game at the moment. So I'm going to run through position by position for you guys really quickly. So Dominguez is the first goalkeeper I'm looking at. He's got a really great fixture against Qatar. He's nailed on as Ecuador's starting goalkeeper. He could definitely get an early clean sheet for me, and he could be an easy switch for one of the goalkeepers. He's a little bit cheaper as well, so he might be someone I look at for the first fixture. The only issue I have is that I probably won't use him past that first fixture. I'll probably use one of the other goalkeepers, so it would just be to save some money, and I don't really want to use a transfer on him later, so I will be considering that. The second goalkeeper, or second and third, is Muslera and Roche, I believe is how you pronounce that. Or I don't think it's Rochit. I think it's Roche. I'm not too sure which one starts for Uruguay. Maybe someone can let me know in the comments, but I believe that Muslera has been the starting goalkeeper for previous international tournaments, but Roche has started the last few international games. So I don't really want to be picking a goalkeeper that's not nailed on, because I need as many people playing as I can get. With some of the players I picked. So yeah, I'm just not too sure which one starts, but I do like the sound of getting a Uruguay goalkeeper in there somewhere. And Martinez, who plays for Aston Villa and Argentina, who is not in the game as of yet. I doubt he will be below 5% once he gets added into the game, but you never know. It could have just slipped under people's radar. And it would be really nice to get him in for that Saudi Arabia game and potentially switch out my current Argentina defender, Moslina, to one of the other defenders that I've got right here. That was clever. The first defender here is Laporte. The Spanish defence is known for being really strong. And yeah, he unfortunately the wing backs for Spain are just above 5% ownership at the moment. I really like to own one of them, but yeah, I can't quite get to them. Laporte, I believe he's the most nailed on out of the Spanish centre backs, as Ramos hasn't been picked. I believe it's him and Pau Torres for the partnership at the back. And he's quite attacking as well. He does like to get into the box, so he's definitely someone I'm thinking about. Borna Sosa is another one. He was in my starting team straight away because I knew about him and his attacking potential, and I saw he was 3.5 million. I was like, that's criminal. How has he been put so cheap in this game? He's the starting wing back for Croatia, but he's now risen to above 5% because most people have cottoned on. All the big FPL creators have recommended him. So yeah, there is no chance I'm getting him now. He was in my consideration, but yeah, he's now been transferred out for other players. Danilo and Telles are also there. They're potential for an attacking Brazil defender, but there's a very serious risk of rotation. No one quite knows who's going to be starting at the fullback position for Brazil, so it's a little bit risky there. And unfortunately, the centre backs are above 5%, so it looks like I'm probably going to have to steer clear of Brazil defenders unless I get some inkling of I know which one's going to start. We've got Stones and Walker as well. The England defence is usually really strong. The only issue at the moment is I've picked a lot of attackers from their group, so I'm almost hoping that they don't get as many clean sheets. And again, we don't know exactly who's going to be playing in that England defensive line. So yeah, there's some interesting picks that I could consider. Theo Hernandez is a big one. He's not in the game. He's very unlikely to be a differential by the deadline because everyone knows about how attacking he is, but he'd be a fantastic addition if he somehow gets added and not many people realise. That would be huge. And Hoffman as well for Germany, who again is quite an attacking fullback but is not in the game right now for Germany. So yeah, I'm really hoping that he just slips in under the radar and I can pick him in the team and he's low owned. Fingers crossed. But yeah, one of those two would be fantastic as they're both strong defences that I have got good fixtures and that I don't currently own one of them yet. Going into the midfield, Bruno Guimaraes is first on my list. This is because I believe he could get a lot of points for his tackles. He's such a hard-working player for Newcastle and for this Brazil side. I'm not too certain if he's nailed in the Brazil side. I know Brazil have got a lot of midfielders. I think he's first choice, but they've got so much talent there, I don't think he'll play every game. He can rock up with goals and assists as well, which we know of, but Brazil have so much attacking talent that I very much doubt that Guimaraes is going to be getting too many goals. And he is 8 million, so he's definitely in my considerations, though. Eden Hazard is next. I'm actually quite surprised he's this low owned, considering his potential, but he is a big rotation risk with Thorgan Hazard and Trossard as well. Hazard, Trossard, a lot of rhyming there. But yeah, I'm surprised he's that low owned. He could be a fantastic player, definitely someone I'm going to monitor. But yeah, I already have Lukaku as the Belgium attacker. I don't think I want to own two of them. Hence, I just don't think he might not start. I'm just surprised he's that low owned. Tchouaméni from France, definitely a player not many people are thinking about. But I'd really like to get a France either attacker or midfielder in there somewhere. And he's probably the best bet who is lowly owned. Coman is also an option, but I don't think he's going to start for France. And there is also the attacker, Nkunku, who, again, I don't think will start for France. But they are two players who I'm definitely considering if they do get considerable game time. Minamino is probably the top on my midfielders I'm looking at. He has been in a few of my previous drafts. And he's on penalties, as I mentioned before. I do really want penalty takers in my team, just as some kind of aspect to getting points. But he's not really been massive at international level. He's not really proven himself. I know he played for Liverpool and he did all right, but I'm just a bit skeptical about him at the moment. I'm hoping he can play well, but that first game against Germany, I probably won't own him come the first match day. But he might be someone I look to transfer in. And Maddison and Mount from England. They have favourable fixtures. Again, I would like to get a England attacker who's a little bit different than the typical Kane, Saka and Foden that people have got. But again, not too sure which one's going to start. Maddison's not in the game yet. And again, Mount's a nice pick, but I've got a lot of players from that group already. And as I explained, I've tried to spread my bets a lot because I don't want to be spending too much on transfers. So yeah, I don't expect all three of them to do well, but I could be proven wrong there. I'm monitoring the England midfielders. And then moving on to the forwards, Mane is my number one pick for the forwards. I really wanted to get him in. He was initially in my team until I realised that Lukaku was only 3.8% owned. But yeah, Mane for Senegal is super, super good. He's got a tough first fixture though, is the issue. So against the Netherlands, I just don't see many returns there, but he's definitely someone I'm looking to transfer in straight away. I believe Bale has got Iran, so that's a good fixture. Lukaku's got Morocco, which again is a good fixture. And Son's got Ghana, which is also a good fixture. So yeah, I could be a bit risky on transferring him in there. But if one of the attackers that I have doesn't perform too well, then I'd definitely look to switch in Mane. Gakpo for the Netherlands. The fixtures are fantastic for them, and he could definitely earn a starting place in that Netherlands team, but he isn't on penalties, which again, I want to have as many penalty takers in the team as possible. But he's a super nice pick. He was one of the first players that I thought about until I realised about the whole penalty situation and VAR, and I think there's going to be a lot of penalties in this World Cup. I just have an inkling. And Gnabry is the next pick. He is a great place to spend the budget on, being 9.5 million, and he's very explosive, but he's not on penalties, and there are so many goal scorers in that Germany side that I'm just not too confident on Gnabry getting a goal. If it's got to be a high scoring game, and then I'd be, maybe he might grab a goal, but it's just a bit too, there's a bit too much variance in that Germany side. If they score 5 goals, then yeah, maybe he gets one, but if it's a 2-0 win, there's a very high chance that he's not involved in them. So yeah, interesting pick there. Leao is another interesting one who is not in the game as of yet. Could be a insanely cool differential pick if people don't get him in. I'm very excited about the concept of him. He isn't on penalties, but he's a very exciting player, and I think Portugal will do very well at this World Cup with a lot of talented attackers. And with Jota's injury, I believe he'll be getting a lot of game time. So yeah, I'm definitely excited by the prospect of him. Morata for Spain. He's a very popular pick for these games. He's not normally a popular pick for this game. But he does normally start up top for Spain. People don't really think of him as a top player, but he plays for a very strong side, and he's on penalties, and Spain could do incredibly well, and he's not too expensive either. So he's certainly a consideration if Spain go far in the World Cup. He's definitely someone I want to monitor for future match days and potentially the knockout stage as well. And Olmo as well for Spain, who is not in the game as of yet, but as you might remember in the previous in the Euro iteration, Olmo was fantastic for Spain during the Euros. Obviously, Spain didn't do too well themselves, but he was a shining light in that team. So yeah, he's definitely someone I'll be looking at. And I believe he's going to be put as a forward because Ferran Torres is a forward and he plays on the opposite side. So yeah, I believe he'll be a forward in this game. But yeah, that is all the players that I've got there. As I said before, I'm trying to spread my bets as much as possible with this differential team. Group 1, I own 2 players. Group 2, 2 players. Group 3, 2 players. Group 4, only 1. 5, I've only got 1 player. Group 6, 2 players. Group 7, I own 3 players. And you might have seen that none of them are Brazilian. So that's a little bit of a risk there. I own 2 from Switzerland and 1 from Serbia. That's a bit of a risk. And Group 8, I own 2 players. So again, trying to limit the amount that my players are playing each other, because I think that's going to be my best bet for differentials, is just spreading out completely and not homing in too much on a particular team. mostly because I can't pick too many players from the same team, especially the top ones. But yeah. So that just about wraps it up for this video, guys. I will have another video out probably on Saturday giving my final team selection. Bit of a shorter video just to confirm what my team actually is and if there's been any changes with players' ownerships. Because, as I said, a lot of players are on the cusp of being above 5%. And given the restrictions for this challenge, I will no longer be able to pick them. But yeah, this is just for a little bit of fun. As my entire team are differentials, if any of them do well, it's going to feel great. And if none of them do well, then it was pretty much the anticipated result anyway. I'm just going to have a little bit of fun with this. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you'll join me on this journey to see if the differential team can do really well. I've just remembered I forgot to mention the entire team's percent ownership at the moment is 37.7%. So it equates the entire team's total ownership equates to just over a third, not even anywhere near 100% ownership. So yeah, incredibly different looking team here, but I'm glad you guys voted on this concept. It was probably my favorite of the ones that I suggested, but I hope you guys enjoyed the video and I'll see you in the next, I can't say FPL video, can I? It's not Fantasy Premier League. FWC, Fantasy World Cup. And I'll see you in the next FWC video.